There we go. All right. Can you guys see my screen? The ones who can talk, just so I know that
Yes,
I'm working off a laptop. So
looks great.
I wonder why it looks great because the person who made it. Okay. So we're gonna get started. So as a couple of the Sams already said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. This is going to be the Crim meeting for 2024. Back in June, we had opened a thread in the general GTA channel, and we asked everyone to most of the criminals on the server just to kind of put your remarks out there. We set a list of what we were looking for in order to get this meeting going. So this is the accumulation of it. I'm going to start with introductions. Again, the team doesn't have to introduce themselves unless they're speaking if they don't want to. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Rain. I have been with the TRP community for over 5 years. I have been a staff member for 2 years, and I am currently the lead CM for the GTA community. If anyone else would like to introduce themselves.
I'm Kelsey. I've been with TRP for over a year and a half now, so not too long. And I've been staff for some odd months, I don't know. Um, and I play Hadley in cricket, and so I've been around. I don't play a lot of crime people, but I know a lot of crime people, so I'm very passionate about the criminal stuff in the server.
Okay, and Kelsey is also one of our lead ambos, so we will be talking about that a little bit further down in this meeting. Okay.
Hello,
Oh,
I'm
oh, go ahead.
Stephen. I'm one of the other CMs as well. I'm one of the lead. Oh my god, I can't think right now. I'm
Community
one of the
support. You were lead
community
for
support
community
leads.
support.
One of the community support leads that you might see me flailing about in the ANZ sort of things in TRP. I've been staff for over a year now, but for CM wise, I've been a CM. I think is it this month or next month? A whole year. So yeah, it's been good times. I hope you're all doing well.
And Cynicism, do you want to talk or are you going to not talk? There he is. You've only been a staff member for you've been longer than that. You've been training for longer than that. Yeah, something like that. Okay. Like I said, Caleb, if she comes around, she's also been around for a little bit longer than Steven has. She is a CM for the community. She's been around for a long time as well. Now we're going to get into what this meeting is not about. The meeting is not about new dev updates. I know a lot of people were expecting that, but we are not devs. We're not the dev team. So I'm not going to put pressure on them to get anything moving. They do a lot. They do a lot. There is a lot coming down the pipe for them. There's a lot of things that are almost completed that just need to get pushed. But we're not going to set any times or expectations of that. And the reason why is because just like everybody else in the community, they have their own jobs, they have their own lives, and they're taking time out of their busy schedules to do this for us, for the community, and they're not getting paid to do it. So we don't, when they make announcements of things, it is set to their schedules, and we are not going to push those schedules. We will mention a couple of things that are close to being finished. But again, there's not going to be a set date as to when it comes in. It is almost finished. That's all we can say. I'm also going to put a warning out in the very beginning of this meeting that we are not going to be accepting trolling or any negativity. We've had a lot of that go around, unfortunately, for the past couple of years, and we want to keep it positive. We are a positive community. We are accepting of everyone. we have our 6 core pillars, and we follow those by heart. That includes everybody on the CM staff and staff in general. So that is just going to be everybody's warning. Okay, now we're going to start with the meeting. So first, we're going to go through a couple of rule updates that have been made. So the very first one we made back in August was the combat numbers rule. This is just a kind of very brief breakdown of what that rule was made, and we haven't really had any problems with it. We're very proud of you guys. You guys have been, really, really good with your numbers, and that's what we want to say. We don't want to pull people in tickets. We don't like pulling people into tickets. It makes us feel bad. It makes you guys feel bad. So we want you guys to, follow those rules, and they're there for a reason. They're there so everyone can have, fair play and fun and want to come on the server all the time. So one of the reasons why we changed this rule was because the old rule had just the number of maximum you could have on a scene, and we were finding that that was what people were bringing. They were bringing 6 people against 1 or 2 people, and that's just not fun. It's not fun, and so we decided we needed to break this down a little bit more. We needed to give examples of what was going to be acceptable for the combat number itself. Now, this does not obviously include mechanical crimes, so those still are the same. So robbing banks, robbing stores, robbing, boosts, all that is still under its own rule. But the combat one did change, and like we said, we haven't really had to pull a lot of people in for this, so you guys have done an awesome job with this. Number two is the new NVL rule that we put in place. So a while ago, we were looking at the rules that we had made updates on, and the big rule that we updated was the power gaming rule. When we updated that rule, it's to focus on collaboration. Everyone in a scene should have an opportunity to affect what's going on in that scene. So when we went back and looked at our NVL rule, we realized that, once a gun was pulled out, whoever the person was getting held up could no longer be collaborative in that scene. They were basically stuck. So that's why we changed this rule. It does mirror the Red Dead server in basically word for word as to what the rule now is. It's giving you that opportunity to fight back, but at the same time, because we are now letting this happen, we're letting you pull out that gun and you know try to fight for yourself. We're also expecting players to RP their injuries a little bit better. So if you're choosing to, say, for example, get shot in the head and you actually RP the injury of, the bullet ricocheted around in your head, it hit your brain, and you're probably going to have some lasting damage from that. And it's not going to be a 20-minute injury. It should probably be a couple of days that, in GTA land, a couple of days is a couple of months. So it's like you probably should be role playing that a little bit more in depth, and that'll give your character, some RP. That'll give your friends RP because they're affected by that now. And that's how we want this rule to now be looked at, where you can fight, but you need to, if you get downed, if you RP your injuries, you need to be able to RP that medical a little bit more. Now, we get a lot of questions of why do I have to RP my injuries differently than the PD does? PD is not exempt from this rule. However, their injuries are allowed to be played down a little bit more than a normal player due to the fact of the job that they play on the server. Think about it. If PD players, say there's 6 of them on and it's a 6v6 gunfight against a gang, all of them get hit. They all RP, grave injuries where they're going to be in the ICU for days. That means that there's going to be no PD on the server for the rest of the night unless others clock on later. That means that you can't hit banks. You can't do high boosted cars. You can't sell stolen goods. So that's the reason why, yes, PD should be RPing, their injuries, but they might not be as grave as you, a civilian or a criminal, are going to RP your injuries. It's basically to keep the server running on a mechanic level. We also realize that with this new rule, knives, as they have been, are very OP. If you hit somebody in the correct spot, they go down one hit. This is being looked into from the dev standpoint of possibly, fixing that. It's not, like I said, on the radar at the moment to, get fixed right away. So we are asking everybody to use restraint when you're using a knife. Because just like with a gun, once you're down, your RP's done at that point, and we're not looking to get the easy win. We want these fights to last for a good couple of minutes, and we want everybody to have fun with it. We don't want somebody to pull a knife out and boom, the other person's down and done. It's not fun. If your player is known for using a knife versus, we now know that, we know knives are better than guns on the server, so I'm just going to switch my character's MO and just use a knife all the time just to down the person because I want to win. That's power gaming. You will get pulled into a ticket. You will be talking to one of the CMs about it because that's no longer you doing the NVL room. That's now you power gaming another person. It's not acceptable. All right. Next thing we want to talk about is the multiple car swaps that have been going on. 4 to 5 car swaps in a store, in a chase for a store, a chase for a bank, for a boosted car. It's a little ridiculous. We're not going to set a number of what you can use, but we want you guys to understand that you guys swap your cars. PD is allowed to swap their cars. They can swap, they can repair, or they can up their aggression. So the more you guys swap, the less likely of a chance that you're going to get away from PD versus keeping one car or switching out to another car. You might have a better chance of getting away from officers. PD has a very strict rule that has been put on them that if the players that are in the, bank or boost or whatever, if they don't switch out their car ever, PD is not allowed to switch cars. They're not allowed to bring more people to that scene. Obviously, they can have up to 3 cars, but if a car crashes out, that car cannot come back. But if you swap your cars, then they can bring a unit back. I hope this makes sense to everybody. Those of you who have officers, you know what I'm talking about. And those of you who don't have officers and don't see what happens in that Discord, officers have been restricted to a lot of things over the last few months. We're kind of going to talk about that a little bit with the penal code stuff that's coming up. But there have been a lot of meetings. There have been a lot of rules set in place for PD. So for you to think that, oh, PD's not getting yelled at and we are, not true. They've already gotten their talk. They've been putting these things in place. If there's any problems with them, then command and the CM team and the dev teams that are the leads talk to them about it. So just because you don't see it here in the main Discord, they are getting spoken to. All right, next one. Lore gangs and everybody being buddies. So this has been going on in our community for a very long time. Everybody's everybody's friend, and that's cool. Out of server, you guys want to be friends. That's perfectly fine. You want to go hang out. You want to do, play games with each other. We love it. It's awesome that the community is like so tight knit that you guys want to do that. But in server, when you're playing a gang, or it doesn't even have to be a lore gang. It's any gang on the server at this point. We need the conflict. We need conflict between groups. So like the big lore groups, Vagos, FDF, Balas. There's no I don't want to say this. There's no supporting facts that these guys have ever been friends. They should be fighting constantly. They're fighting for turf. They're, angry at each other because they're so close. I mean, the three groups literally live within blocks of each other. So there should always be fights going on between the three groups. And what has kind of happened on the server, and it's been like this for a very long time, is all these groups and all of the self-made gang groups have now targeted PD as, that's their gang and we have our big gang. And that shouldn't be a thing. Yes, you're going to have fights with PD, but you should also be having fights with other groups on the server. And PD should be coming and cleaning up the mess afterwards. We're losing a lot of PD players because PD is getting beat up so much by criminals. They're just getting tired and they want to switch sides. They want to be the criminals. And we keep losing PD. And as you guys know, PD is a very big, we need PD on the server for you guys to be able to do all these big mechanic type crimes. So we're asking that any lore group or any, gang or any MC that is created, that we start getting conflict going between you guys. And remember, it's all in character. If you guys are best buds out of character and you're in two different groups in server and you're fighting with each other, it doesn't mean that you're not friends anymore. It's just you guys are playing two characters that just happen to be in two different groups. That's all it is. Okay. Next one. This is kind of popped up a little bit more. We've noticed with some of the fights that have been going on. We're having groups having raids hit on them, or you're fighting at a bank and you have a medic that is in your group, and the medic is going and bringing the person up, and then the person's jumping right back into the fight. You can't do it. There's reasons why you cannot do this. It's because eventually the fight's never going to end. The fight's never going to end, and at that point you're no longer, the NVL rule is out the window at that point. So we've got the slogan as "You're down, you're done." This also is in effect for PD. It's not just crime. It's not just the criminals. If an officer gets shot down, they are down until the scene is cleared out. The criminals leave. The criminals arrested. Whatever the outcome of the scene is, and then EMS come in. They treat them for their injuries, and then they move on. Or if, for example, they have to move because they're raiding and they have to move the officer out of that scene, the officer gets moved out of the scene, they get treated, and then they have to stay on the sideline. They cannot rejoin the fight. The only reason why they would rejoin it is because the criminals are rejoining the fight. So we need to kind of stop that. It's you're down, you're done. Now, this doesn't mean that, you have to lay there. If, for example, you do get brought up by your medic, stand off to the side and think about, your route of escaping at that point, because you no longer are in the actual melee fight, but you can be the one who's like, okay, so and so's down, our medic went down, I'm going to grab them and we're going to book it and we're going to leave. Or you could be at that point, you could be setting up scenes. If you're fighting another gang, or if you're fighting PD and you end up getting shot down and you get back up on your feet, you can go and start setting up scenes for when PD has to come in and look to do an investigation at that point. Doesn't mean you have to stay down, you just cannot start shooting again. Next one. A lot of people are going to like this one. We are removing the PD hit rule. The reason why this was put in place was because the hits on cops were getting ridiculous. People were getting mad that, cops weren't using their street names when they were banks, or, cops rubbed them the wrong way that day, or they were in a bad mood. So they were putting hits on cops and everybody in the gang was going after that one cop. This was making cops go off duty. Again, cops need to be on duty for mechanics to work. So we put this rule in place that you had to have a very good reason to hit a cop. You had to open a ticket, and CMs had to review it and make the determination of if your reason was good enough to hit that cop. We are now removing this. However, we are going to be asking everybody to not go crazy with this. If it becomes a problem again, we will put this back in place. I'm going to give you an example. The cop, I'm at a bank and the cop decides to call me by my regular name and not my street name. That's not a good example to put a hit on a cop. There still should be a good RP reason for your character to go after that cop. The cop's been, hassling you in the cells. The cop's been, hassling you at your banks. This cop's been targeting you for some reason or other for days now. That would be a good reason to go after that cop. And you are the one that goes after the cop because the combat numbers rule would apply. If there's one cop, there shouldn't be 6 gang members going after the cop. So that rule is being removed as of today. Penal code updates. PD has already been made aware of what the penal code updates are. Some of these are not in effect yet because the penal code itself in-game has not been updated. One of these, however, is assault charges. You in the cells may have noticed that if there's 6 officers on scene and all of them get hit, you as the criminal are not getting hit with 6 times assault. You're getting hit with 1 time assault for all the officers that were on the scene. There are also other examples of this happening as well. Any of the assault charges for LEOs are being taken out and they're just being put back as normal assault charges. The reason why this has been removed is because we realized that the time and fine for getting getting all those officers hit was more time and fine than, you actually doing the original crime of robbing the bank. So we decided, and the dev team decided, that we're taking those out. Like I said, they still are going to show up in game for the lawyers and on the, website until it's actually put in place in the database. But PD is already starting to follow this. So, like I said, officers are only charging 1 assault for the 6 officers that were shot, not 6 assaults on that one person. Also, another thing that's going to be coming in soon is there's going to be a huge update in forensics. Those of you who are officers already know this is coming. You've already seen it. Like I said, I'm not going to get into too much detail about it, but one of the things I can mention is that when you shoot bullets, there's going to be a lot more bullets on the ground, and they're going to stay for more than 15 minutes. This is going to give the detectives in the community time to actually, do detective work and get cases going. As opposed to right now where we have the cops have to stop what they're doing, run over and get forensics where there may or may not be a bullet. What was the last thing everybody heard? Because my mic just went out.
Whether or not there may or may not be a bullet.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, so I was done that basically. So yeah, so right now how it works is, you shoot your gun, there's a percentage that a bullet's going to drop on the ground. When this new forensics comes in, there's going to be 100% chance a bullet's going to fall on the ground. All the forensics, like I said, it's getting redone. It's almost wrapped up. It's almost to the point where it's going to be pushed to the server. And that's going to open up a lot of RP, like I said, for detectives. It's going to open up a lot of RP for the PIs as well, because they're going to be able to do things. And you as the criminals, there is something coming for you guys. I'm not going to dive into it because I know the devs want to show you guys what to do. There is something that is going to give you counterplay for these things. Also, another thing, once the penal codes get updated, your boosting cards are now illegal. PD did their investigation. They brought it to the DOJ. The DOJ has already signed off on, yep, these things are illegal. These little tiny cards that are in these tablets are 100% illegal. The reason why PD has not been pushing that yet is because it's not yet made in the penal code. Once that comes into the penal code, they will start to be seizing those little those little tiny SD cards. They won't be seizing your tablet. They will be seizing the SD card inside of it. So expect that to start happening once the penal codes change. Next one, PD versus crim expectations. We're going to focus a little bit on hostage taking and banks because that was one of the ones that you guys had talked about a lot in the thread. So having a hostage at a bank will not give you that full bank. That's never going to be a thing. It's also not NVL on the cops for coming in. We've said this a long time ago. It's probably been about almost a year now. That if you guys hit that third door, that's the risk. That's the huge risk because that's where the big money is behind that third door. Third door gets hit, PD's breaching. You as the criminals at that point need to realize when you've lost the negotiations. Do you want to hit that third door? If you want to hit that third door, you need to start preparing to take out PD at that point. PD is going to be coming in. So to stand in the front with the hostage and saying, but we have a hostage, you can't come in here, not a thing. PD's going to come in. At that point, you have two options. You either fight or flight. Letting the hostage run and you run to the back of the bank and you fight for that bank, or you let the hostage go and you run to your cars. And I'm saying run to the car, not walk to the car. Because if you guys are walking to your car when PD's, about to breach that bank, PD is going to tackle you. You are supposed to be running from a bank. You're doing a crime, a very big crime that PD's not just going to stand there and let you get away with. We're also going to talk about meta of parking away from the crime. We don't know where this came from. We were talking about this for a little bit. We have no idea where this started. But you as the criminal, if you're hitting a bank, if you're hitting a pharmacy, hitting a store, or whatever, and you're parking like a block away with your car, or even hiding it like, 3 blocks away in a parking garage, that's just weird. And we're not sure how that started. So as long as you're not blocking the doors or, parking directly on the sidewalk where all you have to do is walk out of the door and, get in the car, you can park closer. You can park like if you're, I want to say, I don't know which bank doesn't have red sidewalks, but if there's a bank that doesn't have red sidewalks out front of it and, you're parked legally, PD can't tow that car. PD can't move your car. You can park outside of the bank as long as you're not blocking the doors. And this goes for stores too. As long as you're not, blocking PD's access to get to you, you can start parking closer. Next thing we're going to talk about is the shift in server culture. We talked about this in the community meeting. We're still aiming for this. We want to get away from less mechanic and more RP. So mechanic crime gets repetitive. I mean, I watch a lot of streams during the day, and I just watch, crims and cops going from store to boost to, selling loot, and it gets really repetitive. It gets really boring. Even when I would do this stuff, it got boring. Like, I mean, I was part of crime. I was part of, gangs a while ago, and just doing that constantly, just it's not fun. So we're trying to shift that culture. We're trying to get out of, I'm going to log in today and I'm going to hit 12 stores and 3 banks and, just drive around and lose PD or get into a shootout. Like it's just not RP at that point. I mean, you're basically playing GTA online with rules. That's what it is. So we're trying to get out of that culture. We're trying to get back to RP stories. Which brings us into the next one of focusing on long-term stories. This is where our ambassador team comes in. We have 2 leads for the ambassador team. They're both here. They are actively working on several stories as of the last month. I mean, we had the Halloween story. We have a couple characters passed away last night, I think. and we've had other stories, and we have other stories coming in that are player stories. If you guys have any story you want to do about your player, open up a ticket. The leads will look into it. They will look to see if any of our ambassadors are available to help. A lot of people also know that, hey, we also have assistants to the ambassador team. We can't make everybody an ambassador, unfortunately, we can't. But if you're interested in helping with a story that, is in your time zone, the leads are going to reach out and they're going to say, hey, I've got this story. This player needs, some bodyguards for this type of story that they want to do, and you're available in that time zone. Are you available these days? And then they'll sit with you and they'll show you what needs to be done. You'll get pulled into the ticket. You'll talk to the player that wants to do the story. And that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to slow things down a little bit to let everybody have those RP moments. Let everybody be collaborative on the server. Which brings in mechanic crime versus RP. We're hearing a lot of I can't do anything because there aren't cops on. That's the mechanic side of the server. Does not stop roleplay. Yeah, you might not be able to hit a bank. You might not be, able to get the big boosted car that you want. You might not be able to sell stolen goods, but it's not stopping you from actually telling your character's story. It's not stopping you from helping a friend tell their story. Just because there's not 5 cops on duty, just because you want to go hit a bank. That's just the mechanic part of it. Like I said, we want to focus on role play. We want your characters to evolve as not just, I'm going to hit a bank every day. I'm known for hitting 6 banks. I'm known for robbing stores. I'm known for selling stolen goods. We want to know your character. We don't want to know what you can do. Example of that was last month we had the zombie outbreak. That had nothing to do with staff. That was all player doing role play. It came off of a store robbery, and a bunch of people decided, hey, we're going to, have this virus going around that's going to turn us into zombies. That was all community player driven. We had nothing to do with that. We supported it. If they wanted some extra help, we were there to help, but it was all player. And you guys as players can do this stuff. Next thing we're going to bring up, and this is going to be the last slide, is going to be reporting PD for SOP breaks. This generates RP. So SOPs are different than community and server rule breaks. The SOPs are in-game rules or guides that the PD players and the SAMS players, all of these things, that's what they go by. Just because they've broken an SOP doesn't mean that they've broken a server rule. So when somebody does a report and a CM says that this isn't a server rule break or a rule break, for the community, but it looks like you need to talk to PD commander, an upper member of PD, that's what you need to do. And we understand that, a lot of people, gang members, well, we wouldn't talk to PD because that's snitching. And it's not really snitching. Like the idea of, oh, you talk to PD, you're a snitch. We don't know where that came from. It's snitching is when you tell your own shit that's going on, not, PD breaking their own rules. So we understand that, this has become an issue where it's kind of stopping RP from happening. So us as staff, we are thinking about bringing Sammy back. So for those people in the community who have been around since the last wipe that happened, Sammy was its own external IA department for the government groups. They went around, and if there was any, issues that were going on, people could go directly to Sammy. Sammy would open an investigation, they would do their own reports, and then they would bring the findings to PD or, the heads of the, SAMs or the DOJ. They would bring it over there, and then they would let them do some sort of, documentation, punishment, what have you. It didn't really work that time at that time because I don't know why. I'm going to be honest. I don't know why it didn't work. All we know is that there's a lot of, you know, SOP issues that have been going on that possibly, if the person is outside of these groups, like I said, Sammy by itself, who is going to be just a pure RP type group, there's not going to be any big paychecks or nothing like that. It's going to be probably staff members right now until we figure out, like I said, if it's going somewhere, we probably will, extend it out to the community and we'll have more people than just a handful of Sammy here and there, to get out there, and basically they would become the IA department and they would be the ones to dish out the punishments for these things. It would not be in the hands of EMS, PD, or the DOJ anymore. They would be the ones to do it. But like I said, that's down the line. It's not something that's going to be right this minute. We're still looking into it. We're still hashing out, if there's going to be any problems with it or not. So at this time, we want to just thank everybody for coming. Like I said, we need criminals. We need criminals on the server. It gives PD something to do, but we just need to change the way that criminals look at what needs to be done. And for years, it's always been, well, my character needs to have the big house, or my character needs to have this car in order to, play their story. That's not a thing. That's what somebody wants, and somebody wants, that's like the goal, and it's a nice goal, but it, you can tell your story without these things. Those are just pixels in a server. Like I said, we want to know about your character. We don't want, to have to step in and say, "Hey, you're doing all these things. You're just focused so much on the money aspect of it." We want you to focus on, being collaborative in the community and focus on everybody having fun. That's what we're here for. So at this time, the meeting is going to be over unless any of my team have anything else they want to say.
I just want to say from just watching streams and just like seeing on the server, I think there's been a lot of great improvements on, especially more RP over mechanics. I know that is still a shift that a lot of people are trying to make and understand and like learn. But I've noticed a lot of that, and I've been very appreciative as just the viewer, but also like in the server playing on my EMS character or on Hadley. It's been really nice having like actual stories, so it doesn't feel like, oh, I just log on to work and then go back to bed. I feel like I've actually had stuff to do and like fun things to do. And so like I've really appreciated that from like my side as just a person. And I think you guys have been doing really great on that side of things.
Anybody else? Steven, are you awake? I think Steven fell back to sleep. But yeah, like I said, that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get the community back to role play. That's what we are. We're a GTA role play server. So again, if anybody has any questions, we already opened the thread, like I said, a while ago to, get a lot of people's suggestions or, get questions from them. That's why we put them here. We're not going to do that this time because of the fact that we've, again, already done it. But if you have individual questions that you have in regards to, what we talked about here, you can open up a support ticket and one of the members of staff will go ahead and try to answer your question to the best of their abilities. Once we finish this, like I said, there's going to be a recording of it. It's going to be up there forever, in the Discord channel. I think it's the community one is where we drop all this stuff. So if anybody missed this, they can go back and look at it there. Again, remember, this is all, out of character stuff, so your characters don't know any of this is going on. But like I said, there's not really anything that we really touch base on that shouldn't be known anyway. So, yeah. Cause go have fun. I know there's a birthday party tonight in a couple of hours. So just, have fun. And we're gonna end the meeting at this time.